Lesson 52 Fragment 1. What is a fragment? When developing with React, there are cases where a component needs to output multiple elements, but React requires that a component return a single root element at the top level. A fragment is a tool provided by React that solves this problem in a clean, elegant way. It lets you group several sibling elements as if they were wrapped, but without actually inserting any extra wrapper element into the final output. The result is as if those elements were returned individually, side by side. Because a fragment does not produce additional markup in the DOM, it keeps the generated HTML clean and avoids unnecessary wrapper nodes, which could interfere with layout or styling. 2. When and why you should use Fragment. You should consider using a fragment when your component logically needs to return a list or group of elements rather than a single container. For example, when rendering sibling components or pieces of UI that don't need an extra container around them. Using a normal HTML container, like a div or other element, in such cases can lead to unwanted wrappers that alter the DOM structure, might affect styling, layout, or semantics, or even lead to invalid HTML in certain contexts, for example when rendering table rows or list items. A fragment avoids all those drawbacks while still satisfying React's requirement of returning a single thing. 3. Benefits of using fragments. Clean DOM output. Because the fragment does not render as an actual DOM node, the DOM remains uncluttered. Only the meaningful elements appear. Styling, layout neutrality. Since you are not introducing extra nodes, you avoid unwanted styling side effects or layout changes that a wrapper container might cause. Flexibility in component composition. You gain the flexibility to logically group elements without affecting the structure rendered to the user. This is especially useful when a component needs to output several sibling elements, or when passing a group of elements as a prop. Semantic and structural correctness. In contexts where the HTML structure matters, for example tables, lists, or other structured markup, using fragments ensures that you don't break the required relationships between elements. 4. Special considerations and advanced uses. There are a few more subtle points worth knowing about fragments when you build more complex UI. If you are generating a list by iterating over data, for instance, mapping over an array to render a list of items, and you need to render fragments for each item, you might need to explicitly use the named fragment syntax, rather than the shorthand, to pass key properties for each fragment. This helps React identify each element in the list uniquely and manage updates efficiently. In most regular cases, when you're simply grouping a few elements, the shorthand syntax works fine and is more convenient. For grouping text nodes and components together, when you need to mix raw text and elements at the same level, a fragment can be a clean way to keep them together without adding wrapper markup. 5. Summary. Why fragment matters. Fragments provide an elegant and efficient way to satisfy React's requirement for a single top-level return while avoiding unnecessary DOM elements. They help keep the rendered output clean, avoid styling, layout issues, and maintain correct HTML structure. When you're building components that output multiple pieces of UI, especially sibling elements, lists, or mixed content, fragments become an essential part of writing clean, maintainable React components. Using Fragment thoughtfully helps you write React code that is both semantically correct and visually predictable, while avoiding clutter or unexpected side effects in the DOM.